Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here for another one of our Bella interviews. I'm very excited to have Maria Ochoa here from Emprender Creative. Welcome, Maria.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to chat with you and kind of, get to tell everybody about our story. So thank you.
Yes, definitely. Well, we're so excited to have you. I had the pleasure of meeting Maria recently at one of our gatherings, and she is incredible. And I know all of you that are listening are going to feel the same way, truly inspired by her and her who she is and her business. So we're just going to dive right into the interview and get to know you a little bit more. So just start off telling us a little bit about you. So who is Maria? If I were to ask you, describe Maria to people, who are you? How would you share that with folks?
Gosh, so many things. I feel like women, we wear so many hats. My name is Maria Ochoa, and I am the founder of Emprender Creative. We're a social media management agency. But about me, I am the youngest of 12 kids. I have one of my own, married, family, the whole shebang. And a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Mexico up to the age of 10. My family came to the US when I was 10. We moved to the LA area, to the East LA area, and are Los Angeles locals since then. So I kind of grew up in both worlds, and what they used to say, ni de aquí ni de allá, but I feel like we're reclaiming that and saying, no, we're from here and we're from over there. We're bicultural, we have embraced both cultures and both worlds, and we're okay with it. What else? I love social media. I love the ability to meet people, to distribute information. It's so accessible. I think I have fun with it. I think it's entertaining. It could be informative, entertaining. So yes, that's a little bit about me. I love to read and write. And so I feel like that's kind of my creative outlet is by writing. So yeah.
That's great. So I'm curious about, and I asked this of kind of all the women that I've been interviewing, but you talked a little bit about your childhood kind of growing up. If you can elaborate a little bit on that and just, share, I'm always curious, like is entrepreneurship and being a small business owner, is that something that maybe some of your family members also have a business or something you always thought like I'm going to, create, or I'm going to be a business owner one day, or, just share with us a little bit more about growing up in your childhood and how that experience led you to where you are today.
Well, definitely I come from a family of entrepreneurs, generations really. My mom was a salesperson. She had her own career, her own job, and then she also sold household items in Mexico, like what it's called the white line, which was refrigerators, stoves, that type of thing.
Oh, yeah.
So I grew up going with her to like homes with the catalog and knocking on doors, that kind of thing. And then my dad has been in construction, and my siblings for generations now. I mean, that's the business that we know, really. And so in their own way, they have their own businesses, their own companies. And I feel like I've always been, and my sisters have their own businesses. They kind of always, I think I was the last one to join this entrepreneurship line, because I was very much set on trying to get that college degree and doing the 9-to-5 job. But my family, really, they're all entrepreneurs. They have businesses that they run. And I always had things that I would like sell. Like in high school, I would sell candy, or, just to make extra money. I enjoyed the entrepreneurship of that. And then in college, just to make ends meet, I would do different things. Like I would have a job, but then I would also, like I remember I used to pluck girls' eyebrows and charge them like $10,
Oh, wow.
eyebrows. And so I feel like I always had something that I was doing aside from like my regular job.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I feel like entrepreneurship really is that mindset and that spirit, right? For creativity, for kind of being in control of your own financial kind of health and growth, and it's so interesting that you share these kind of little experiences that I feel like was already something that was a part of you. And
yeah,
so although I'm sure, and we'll get into the questions a little bit later about, challenges that having a business presents and maybe some insecurities but still having the spirit of creating and leading and, just putting yourself out there really as a business owner is just
yeah,
something that you obviously already had as a part of who you are, so that's really,
yeah. I always felt like it was a very like you said, it gives you some sense of control of, or not control, ownership of your own outcomes and destiny. And
yeah.
it's very much creative because I can't even name how many different things I've sold over the years or different little businesses I've had over the years.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's very gratifying, really.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think I could tell by how you talk about it, that it's very much a part of your makeup and your DNA and, how you show up. So that's great. And so, I'm curious, I'm sure folks that are listening are curious. How did you come up with Emprender Creative? So, what was the kind of concept of behind the name, behind the business? How did it all kind of come together to what you have today?
Well, as I'm sure many of us children of immigrants have done growing up, I used to translate my parents' documents from the time I was a kid. And I my background is in nonprofits, so I started my career in nonprofits, and I often found myself translating flyers, documents, communications for our clients.
Mhm.
And then slowly people would, pay me a little extra to do, extra work. And that's kind of really how my journey started. So when I decided, I just felt there was a need for accessible bilingual information, in particular for our communities. And I decided, I started freelancing really, and then maybe like 5 years ago, I decided to leave my job and really pursue this full time, mainly because I did see a huge need, and there was a market for it. Like, quite honestly, there was a market.
Mhm.
And the name Emprender, to me, um, it means to embark. It's like starting a journey, and I wanted to create a journey. I wanted to create a space of accessibility with regards to language and access for our communities. I still feel like we have a long way to go. So that's kind of the driving force that motivates me. And creative, because we're in a creative space. Times are changing, and there's very much a digital time,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of flexibility with creativity. So yeah, that's where the name comes from. And I wanted that English and Spanish mashup
Mhm.
because, like I said, I grew up in both worlds.
Mhm.
Um, and this is before it was like, I feel like it's become a little bit more acceptable and popular, and maybe in the last couple of years. But
Yeah.
before, it was like a big no-no to do like the Spanglish thing, to
Yeah.
mix, because either you had to be proper or you didn't. And I always kind of feel like I rebelled against that,
Yeah.
because I wanted to embrace that mashup mixture, because I was like, I don't speak perfect English and I don't speak perfect Spanish, but
Mhm.
I managed them both pretty well. And I wanted that to come across in the name of the business.
Yeah.
So,
That's beautiful. I mean, I think a lot of people can relate to that and it resonates with them. I love the combination of the two words, the English, the Spanish, even your kind of the image you have there, right? It's almost like something's opening up and
yeah,
growing. And I think really aligning ourselves or identifying ourselves with your organization. That's really the first thing you see is and here is the name is whatever image you have, right? And you want people that to touch people because you're clearly someone that is driven by their values, and your character just shines through in terms of the business that you're operating and how you're operating it. So I know that people are connecting with you, and the bilingual is really important because, to your point, sometimes there's been shame around it for whatever reason, because our society hasn't historically accepted it or embraced it. Sometimes we feel the need or the push or the pressure to assimilate, and it's okay to speak in both languages. I come across still, there's sometimes when I'm like, I don't, even at work, right? I have a full-time job myself, and I think I don't remember what that word is in English, and then I say it in Spanish, right? And vice versa.
It
Sometimes I have to
happens to
call
me
my
all
mom.
the time. Yeah,
I'm like, Mom, no sé cómo se dice esta palabra, and I find myself like explaining to her in like a paragraph, trying to explain to her what the word I'm trying to grab in Spanish, right? And then she'll start throwing out words. Es esto, es esto, es esto. I'm like, no, es eso, no es eso. And so I think the language is something that's actually really beautiful, and that kind of brings us together and really brings your multicultural audience, I'm sure, to you and your clients and the people that you serve. So
yeah, I think language is, it's such a connector. It's like food, it can bring people together, and it can also, if not done or if not brought forward properly, it can also be a divider. So.
Exactly. Yeah. No, the power of language. I mean, we can have a whole nother talk on just that, I'm sure.
I know, I can talk about it for hours. So yeah.
Well, kind of sharing a little bit about your journey so far, your childhood and how your business was born. Tell us a little bit about kind of the social impact, if you will, the purpose and the mission of your business. Because we know obviously it's a service, your business. So you're providing a service and you're making the money. We definitely understand that piece, but I know that there's also social motivation behind it, and what, like, a deeper sense of purpose, which I just literally just gathered from what you shared right now about how you started and came up with the name. So you could speak to a little bit more about what your bigger purpose is, or your mission of your business, and even what you plan to do moving forward, right? Because I'm sure you have a lot of goals and ideas and visions that maybe aren't happening right now, but that have to do with that bigger purpose. So if you could speak to that a little bit, that'd be great.
Thank you. I think at the core, to be honest, the purpose, what really always, sometimes when, you don't get the project that you wanted, or, you don't land the client that you wanted. But at the end of the day, what really centers me back, or brings me back to that place of joy and satisfaction for my business, is remembering that purpose and that vision. And really, it was to create marketing services for nonprofits and small businesses, and bilingual content. But that was not just translation, but it was content that was like culturally targeted, that it was impactful to our communities, and really relevant to the Latinx community, because that's really where I focus most of my work. But yeah, that's really, in a nutshell, it's really creating culturally targeted and relevant content that's impactful in our communities, in their language, in a language that it's accessible to them. A lot of times, I was telling someone yesterday, I think people, somehow we got this name of like the sleeping giant. And I'm like, no, we've never been sleeping. We're working, we're members of our communities. We produce. Latinas have the highest earning, like spending power right now in the market, a lot, 70%. So that's huge. And also there's why aren't we not targeting? And also there's people that live in this country, that work, that pay taxes, that have lived here for 20 years, but language is still they might not speak English fluently. That doesn't mean that they shouldn't be served with information that serves them as well.
Right.
I think it's only fair, and I think it's the right thing to do, to be honest. So that's really at the core of of what drives our work.
Yeah, I feel that. I think it almost sounds like a social justice kind of driven organization at the same time, it's something that's very personal and very personalized, right,
Mhm.
to the person that you're working with. So I think that's really great. Do you have um, some kind of ideas or goals that, don't share anything top secret that you can't share, but anything about like how you plan to grow the organization, or do you, moving forward, maybe what are some things that you're working on?
I do. We do. I'm taking small steps. Like as I started as a freelancer, then decided, okay, I guess I should set up my LLC, and then quit my job, went full time. And I feel like every time it's been like, a leap of faith.
Yeah.
I do have goals. I want to set up an actual agency, an office, and take bigger clients, work with bigger. But as you know, every step requires a lot of work, a lot of planning. Um, so yeah, the goal, of course, is to work with organizations and businesses that are also passionate about providing access and their communications, their services to our community as a whole, and like not have language be a barrier, that they can also provide those services in a way that is purposeful to them, and also for the people digesting the content, or buying the products.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's the goal. The goal is to grow and to continue to serve clients and our community in the best way possible.
Yeah. Well, that's really amazing. And you definitely, I'm sure you have a great support system and network that is supporting you. And you always have us, to uplift you and the work that you're doing in any way that we can support you as well. Just make sure you keep us in the loop. We want to be a witness to your continued journey, because I know there's so much opportunity, and there's also so much need in
Yeah.
what you offer, and you do it with such a true spirit for who you are, and what you want to do in terms of helping people. So I think it's wonderful. And I think you're definitely going to accomplish all of that and more. The things that will be unexpected that I'm sure will come your way.
Thank you. Thank you.
So speaking to, it's great to hear that your goals and, you have the vision to kind of continue it, but I know it hasn't always been easy, right? So as you were starting out, maybe even currently, there's challenges. So if you could speak a little to the struggles that, you've kind of encountered, and how you've navigated that, overcome that, what has helped you get past that?
Well, there's the everyday challenges of making a payroll. And that's always a challenge, of turning in projects on time, of meeting deadlines, of managing the workload, not just my workload, but my team's workload. So there's always those challenges. But I think from the beginning, and the thing that I feel like we keep working at is that the part of it is education, not just for us as a team, but for our clients. I think there's a general assumption that if you speak another language, or say you took English as, Spanish as a second language, that inherently means that you have an increased awareness and empathy for another culture. And that's not always the case,
Right.
Especially when adapting communications. It requires understanding of the cultural nuances and the values and mindset of that culture. Right. So that, I feel like that's been a little bit of a challenge to communicate, and to pretty much every project that we work on, because we're not just translating, we're really trying to bring value to the context and how information is delivered. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So because we work in very diverse communities, and one of the things that has been kind of like, I feel like I keep holding like a stick, where it's like, we're not like Latinos, we're not a homogeneous group. There's a lot of variety. There's there's so much diversity within our language.
Mm-hmm.
So even that aspect, you know, I've had to sit down many times with clients and kind of go through, you know, even when there's people who are like, well, I speak Spanish, I can review the content. And it's like, okay, to review the content and having those deep conversations about, you know, how communication is going to be delivered and what's the intent behind that piece. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that's been probably the most, to me, that's what keeps me up at night. More so than anything else is creating campaigns and content that really hits that really meets those standards. So I would say that's kind of where I feel like my work continues every day.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's huge. I think that the fact that I could see that, I mean, we all have our internal biases, right? Mm-hmm. And to your point, yes, we come in all shapes and colors and sizes and isms. You know, we're all, and we're a mixture of identities, and we all identify differently, and there's a lot of commonalities. So I think there's a string that kind of, you know, the thick rope that kind of like binds us all together in a lot of ways, but just as much we're different in our experiences and our upbringing, and again, you know, yeah, where maybe in terms of like, if we're a daughter of immigrants, like where our parents lived and their experiences. So I could see how that would be a challenge, and I hadn't really thought about it until, you know, you bring that up. And I think it's critical that and I applaud you for the work that you're doing, because, you know, a lot of the times we look at our work in terms of like, it's very linear, or it's very like one way or the other, right? It's like, well, here's a product, so here's a marketing plan, like just post 2 times a week, like let's say in this, and I'm just speaking from my very naive experience about this, but, you know, like post twice a week, and, you know, put content about, and this is actually, I'm also saying this because I do this, put a quote here, and you know, put a reference, a statistic here, and, you know, you're trying to mix up the what, and you don't spend as much time thinking about the user, right? Or the, you know, I think that's what it is, right? The user, on the user end, in terms of like, what are people feeling or experiencing, and in your words, you know, how the content is delivered as well. So that's really interesting that you bring that up as a challenge and an ongoing one. But I could totally see how that makes sense, that that's something in your line of work and just in general that you would encounter those challenges. Yeah. So do you have strategies that have worked? And again, you don't have to relay anything that's top secret, you know, but anything that you see that has helped kind of folks through that, or is it just a continuous kind of case by case?
It's a continuous, but I think for me, it's really staying informed. I try to go to conferences to stay up to date with what's going on in my, you know, in the nonprofit sector and the small business sector, like what are the trends, what's happening, because same thing, you know, there's trending words, and you know, this is what you use in Spanish and English. So I'm always just reading up. I love to read articles. I do a lot of research for clients. Yeah. To make sure that we're using the terminology appropriately. So yeah, that's kind of what I do to keep up with skills. We do trainings, our team does trainings, like we'll attend trainings. I just did I attended a summit last week, like a 3-day summit for nonprofit fundraising, because sometimes I'll do Spanish translations for nonprofits, and it's like, well, what terminology are they using, and how do I use it in Spanish? And so it's it's a constant learning, I think. But I think anybody who, if this is your passion, I enjoy it thoroughly. I learn new things every day, and it's also being comfortable with language changing and language evolving. Language has changed since its own inception. You know, Spanish is not what it used to be in the 1800s or the 1900s, and Spanish in Mexico is not the same as Spanish in Spain. So it's kind of keeping up with those nuances and those changes, and being okay with it. I think 10 years ago, I would have been like, oh no, you can't mix, you know, either you speak, because I grew up with my parents saying, o hablas inglés o hablas español. Like we didn't mix languages at home. Like, we would speak 100% Spanish because my mom was like, well, you can speak English outside or in school, but at home you speak Spanish. And she really pushed that on us. But now I'm like, oh, I mix it. I let my son mix it. I think it's okay. I think it's what's happening right now. It's a context of where we are as well. So yeah, it's just kind of being aware of that.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. I think you bring a very holistic kind of approach to your business model, is what it sounds, and that's something that I think is really good, because we don't always get that. I think, again, back to the point, sometimes it's this or it's that. We don't get these deep conversation and this blend of, but you're dealing with, and maybe not dealing with is the right word, but when you're working with humans, we're complex creatures.
Yeah, we are.
There's simplicity to being human, and there's a lot of complexity, especially when you talk about, the work that you do in communication and language. And so, wow, yeah, I never looked at it that way. So it's definitely opening my mind and my eyes to look at it differently.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's I think it comes with, my major in sociology, and so we always look at systems from up and down. And I had a college professor who told us, and I never forgot, he was like, so what? Like, so what? Why is this important? And we would have like heated discussions about it. And I remember I used to get so frustrated. But now I'm like, every time we do a campaign, every time we do a project, every time, even a post, I'm like, okay, so what? What is this gonna deliver? What is this gonna do? Is it just, it's never fluff, even when it's fluff, So there's a lot of intentionality. And luckily we get to work with small businesses and nonprofits who are also very much mission and value driven. So there's a congeniality in there.
Yes. Oh, that's important. I think the mission alignment is so, and not even the mission, some of the purpose alignment, the value alignment. I think that is important, because folks will be more open to what you have to share, even when people don't want to hear it, right? Which I think is important, is we don't have to know everything, and we don't have to know how to do everything, but having that open mind when we're introduced to a different way of thinking, I think that's important. So yeah, that's fascinating. So interesting. So what would you say if you had, a Latina that was motivated, excited, and she was kind of sitting right in front of you, and she was like, I want to start my business, and I have this idea, and I want to push through. What advice or counsel would you give her to starting her business?
I would say, take the time. I think a lot of times we're so excited. And I'm telling you, this is not my first business that I started. I had like a clothing store, I used to sell clothing at the swap meet, and I remember when I had to shut down that business, I was so disappointed because I really loved the concept of it. And I used to sell little kids' clothes. And even though I didn't have kids at the time, I just loved kids' fashion.
Yeah.
But I was I think at that time, the thing I learned from that experience was like, I just kind of rushed into it, and I didn't take the time to think it through. And I would say, think about what drives you, what made you want to start the business, because there will be times when things are difficult. And if you just go back to that initial, like, why do I want to start this business? It's very helpful. I don't think there's things that get added on, but I think from the beginning, being aware, like, this is what I want because I want to bring this to my community, continues to be the driving force for me. And then surround yourself with support, like, you're the Bell Entrepreneurs Networking Group, other networking groups. Surround yourself with people that support you, that support your vision, because you will also get a lot of pullback and people that question your journey. And I would say don't pay attention to those people. Just rather surround yourself with people that support and value what you're doing, because we need that. You know, we need that strength when we're not feeling strong.
Yeah.
And be resourceful. Like, look for grants, look for support, be open to receiving help, be helpful to others, because it's such a give and take. This business, you know, especially small businesses, or if you're just starting as a freelancer, and you know, it's good to have those kind of give and take relationships along the way.
Yeah, no, I think that's all very sound advice coming from, I know, a place of goodness and also experience that you're sharing that. So for all you young entrepreneurs, and I don't mean necessarily young in age, but just young in terms of
Or maybe
business,
just starting.
yeah, starting out, entrepreneurship. I think these are, you know, such
And
wise words.
don't be afraid to ask for help. I think all the time we come across people who are more than willing to help us with information, with setting up our business, with, you know, just don't be afraid. I think a lot of times, I don't know. I mean, I was one of those where I was kind of not ashamed, but like I just didn't want to bother people.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't want to bother. But it's like, no, it's okay to bother.
Yeah.
It's ask for, it's not a bother. Help.
Yeah.
I think most people are happy to help along
Yes.
the way. So yeah.
Yes. I think that's very true. I think sometimes we create those owned narratives in our head,
Mhm.
but most people love helping. You know, they want to feel, we all want to feel useful and needed and appreciated. And I think part of that is when we're asked for help,
Yeah.
right? So being the one to be asked brings us joy, and but yet when we're asking, sometimes we feel like, oh, no, pa que la molesto, or no, no, you know, no tiene tiempo. I mean, I think that's just a part of kind of how, you know, we operate in different ways,
I
not
think
just.
culturally we Latina, I mean, at least Latina women, we tend to, because we grew up like that, like calladita, be quiet, be in your
Yeah.
room,
Yeah.
don't ask for permission before you speak. And
Yes.
now I'm like, no, no, don't ask for, like, just
Yeah.
ask what you need, and
Yeah.
there's always someone willing to help. I think honestly that's a big setback for us if we decide like, oh, you know, I just don't want to. No, it's like ask for help, and I mean, I've been very lucky and blessed, and just so fortunate to meet so many people along the way that were like, yeah, let me help you with this, or
Yeah.
and in turn, it's allowed me to create that space too for others.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yes, I feel it's part of our self-development, our growth. We deserve it. We owe it to ourselves to unapologetically, como dicen, ¿verdad? Ask for help. Tell
Yeah.
people what we need. Tell people who we are too, and be proud of that. You know, I think we need opportunities to do that more and to share that more and to empower each other and uplift each other.
Yeah.
So thank you, Maria, so much for sharing all of that wisdom. I think this has been really great. I've learned so much from you, and I know folks that are listening to this interview have learned so much and are going to walk away feeling very inspired. Before we kind of close our time together, is there anything else that you wanted to share with our audience that maybe we didn't get to in the interview? Or also make sure you let us know how we get in touch with you. We'll be putting all your information on our website. So down below here on the video, y'all are gonna see her website and social media handles and how to get in touch. But anything you want to leave the audience with?
You can find us on Instagram, LinkedIn. I probably live more on Instagram more than any other space, but we're kind of all over. And you know, at Emprender Creative, it's our handle. And I think I just want to leave people with enjoy social media, post. Doesn't have to be perfect. I always feel like that's like my other stick, like just post it. It's okay. It's a lovely community. It's a lovely place. It's not scary. And you get out of it what you put into it. And I know that's an all cliche, but it really does work that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I
thank
agree.
you.
Well, thank you so much, Maria. Thank you, everybody who made the time to be with us and listen to this interview. Make sure you follow Maria and her business, Emprender Creative. Make sure you continue to engage with us. We love all of you. We appreciate you. And we'll see you next time. Thank you, everyone. Gracias,
Thank
Maria.
you.
Bye.
Bye.